Hello, Facebook and YouTube. I'm doing a video today on the recent tragic shooting in, I believe it was Fairview, Texas, where they had the ISIS facility. I believe the young man who did the shooting name was Joshua Jahn, 29 years old, was a resident of Fairview. He also lived, I believed, in Durant, Oklahoma, was another place he lived and had residence there. I don't know what's going on. You know, in the last month, we have had several shootings from young white men who are just, for whatever reason or another, are very quick to pick up a gun and take the lives of innocent people. Now, when this story first broke, there was a lot of politicians, once again, and content creators who were out here immediately saying that this was some left-wing nut who decided to attack a ISIS detention center. Let's look at some of the videos of some of these individuals. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm just going to let you hear what a lot of these content creators were saying before the investigation even got started. This was their perspective on what was going on. Let's just take a look.
Breaking news, here he is, far left Antifa ICE terrorist Joshua Jahn, 29 years old, Fairview, Texas. He's the one that shot at the ICE facility in Dallas, Texas.
Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets.
When you compare the old films of the Gestapo grabbing people off the streets of Poland, it does look like a Gestapo operation.
You posted on social media that, quote, ICE is acting like a terrorist force.
ICE agents, they are coming and kidnapping and disappearing people on the streets of the United States.
But this terror campaign of having masked people rolling up in vans, but we also have to talk about the agents themselves that are carrying this out. If you have any decency, quit now. Because just doing what you were told has been the justification for some of the worst horrors and crimes against humanity.
Masked agents of the state in unmarked vehicles are terrorizing communities. They are disappearing people.
Meanwhile,
those ICE agents not shot or hurt. We do not know, however, the motive of the shooter. That still remains an open question and will be under investigation, and we'll be continuing to ask our sources more about that. But what the Department of Homeland Security has pointed out is that this same facility back in late August also had to contend with a bomb threat at that facility. So certainly ICE has been contending with additional assaults, attacks, and threats to their facilities.
But I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas.
There was also a bomb threat at this facility in August.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
Jesus.
Again, this is just the most recent example
Bad Dremels.
of attack.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about what appears to be, yet again, another act of far-left domestic terrorism, something that we're seeing far too often in this country, a problem that we have to address at this point. It is getting out of control how radicalized these individuals are. And the party that is responsible for radicalizing these individuals is the Democrat Party. Something that the mainstream liberal media refuses to acknowledge. And once again, we have liberals going into full-blown cope over the fact that one of their own radicalized disciples decided to commit an act of domestic terrorism, this time against ICE. In Dallas, Texas, an ICE facility, an ICE office, was targeted by a would-be sniper who decided to start open firing on some of the individuals at the facility, and he ended up killing 2 detainees and injuring another before killing himself. Now, again, this is just another pattern of the far left domestic terrorism that we're seeing in this country that the mainstream liberal media refuses to acknowledge, okay? And this is what we have to cover because they're in full-blown cope mode over the fact that, once again, we're seeing the biggest domestic terror threat to this country in action. Again, this is something I've been warning about.
A spray of early morning gunfire near downtown Dallas.
Checking the cameras and have seen at least 3 people shot. Multiple people shot.
Law enforcement sources identifying the shooter as 29-year-old Joshua Jahn, seen in this 2016 booking photo from a felony marijuana conviction. His target, an ICE field office where detainees were boarding a bus when the shots were fired.
Comenzaron como 20 disparos seguidos.
This witness says she heard about 20 shots, diving beneath her car with her 9-year-old son, hiding until police rushed her inside the facility. The Department of Homeland Security saying the gunman shot indiscriminately at the building.
We had 4 individuals that were shot, 2 of them deceased, including the shooter. The DPD was able to locate the shooter, who was deceased.
Authorities say they found Jahn's body with a rifle next to it on a rooftop near the building. Police saying he turned the weapon on himself.
Early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature.
No law enforcement officers were wounded. This is the 3rd shooting at an ICE facility in Texas this year. While the motive behind this shooting is not yet known, Texas Senator Ted Cruz says the violence has to stop.
Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other.
The suspect's brother tells NBC News they grew up in Texas and Jahn knew how to fire a rifle, but didn't think his brother was interested in politics. Jay Gray, NBC.
Yo, at some point we got to start acknowledging that the rhetoric that is coming from the left, and I'm going to just keep saying it, and I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm going to be very vigilant about my words and what I'm communicating, because it is hurtful, it is hateful, it's impacting these people that are easily influenced on how they feel. Obviously, they have what our ladies like to call no emotional intelligence. Obviously, they're impacted and influenced by what is being communicated to them from the left. And so, whereas you'll see a lot of these people, the Jasmine Crockett's, the who's who, whatever it is that y'all want to say, the AOCs, whatever, blah, 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 insert name here, on the left, they'll sit here and talk about these people that are influenced on the right from hateful rhetoric, which is absolutely false. The only thing that Trump spews is truth, whereas their words are actually leading to violence, and they don't take any ownership and any responsibility for it. And now you got this guy, including other people, that are shooting at ICE officers. At what point will these people actually take responsibility for their impact and the words that they are spewing and the influence that they have over these people that are now firing at ICE agents?
You see what I'm saying? Oh my God. I'm going to give you the names of these content creators once we get into another part of this video. I'm going to let you know who these guys are. The white guy, I could definitely understand. He is MAGA through and through. He called them, what did he call him? ISIS, leftist? No, he called him Antifa, leftist, terrorist. First of all, Antifa is not a group, it's not an organization, it doesn't even exist. It's an ideology that means anti-fascist. You can't find Antifa anywhere. I remember back in 2020 when I was doing videos like this, I tried to get an interview with somebody who was a member of Antifa. They didn't have a central office, they didn't have a president, they didn't have regional presidents, they didn't have regional offices, they didn't have anything. Not like the Proud Boys, not like the 3%ers, not like the Oath Keepers, not like the Klan. You know, they didn't have any of this stuff. There was no way to even contact anybody. That's when I first learned, oh, Antifa is not even really a group. So for him to call them Antifa is just absolutely crazy. On top of the fact that these individuals came to these conclusions before there was even really any reporting or from the investigation on what motivated this guy to do this. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I don't trust any information that comes out of Kash Patel's FBI office. Any information that comes out of that office. Why? Because we across the country, around the world, know how Kash Patel and his FBI have totally lied to us when it comes to the murder of Charlie Kirk. It is so many inconsistencies, those stupid text messages that they showed. It's absolute. Their story don't line up. They have completely, utterly, and purposely lied to us. Why? Because President Trump is more interested in painting a picture that the left is more violent than the right, and that is an issue that we're going to deal with in this video too. But before I listen to anybody, I would much rather listen to a family member or a close friend of this individual talk about him and tell me what type of person this individual was, because nobody would know him better than their family. So I'm going to let you listen to an interview that was given by his brother, giving us information on what type of person he was, what was his political standpoints, everything that he could possibly give us to shine some light on what would bring him to do this. So, without any further ado, let's go to that video.
Joshua John's parents' owned rifle, brother tells investigators. A gunman opened fire at a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Dallas. The incident occurred on Wednesday morning, leaving one person dead and several injured. The suspect has been identified as 29-year-old Joshua Jahn. Authorities confirmed Jahn was later found deceased. His death appears to be from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The FBI is leading the investigation into the Dallas ICE facility shooting. Investigation points to premeditated attack. Federal officials believe the shooter may have acted as a sniper. According to reports from the Telegraph, the Department of Homeland Security is investigating if shots were fired from a nearby rooftop. This suggests a planned attack. Evidence recovered at the scene included unspent bullet casings. One casing had the handwritten message ANTIICE, as reported by Fox News. This detail points to a potential motive linked to the facility's purpose. However, John's older brother, Noah, expressed surprise. He told NBC News he was unaware of his brother holding strong political views. He wasn't interested in politics on either side as far as I knew, Noah stated. Family background and unverified claims. Joshua Jahn was raised in Texas with his brother. Noah Jahn mentioned their parents owned a rifle. He said Joshua knew how to shoot but was not a skilled marksman. He would not be able to make any shots like that, Noah told NBC News. He last saw his brother 2 weeks ago and noticed nothing unusual. This contrasts with the precision suggested by the sniper theory. Some unverified social media claims identified John's mother as Sharon Jahn. These posts alleged she held strong political views. However, NBC News reported Joshua Jahn was a registered independent, and HT.com could not verify the claims about his parents. The investigation into the Dallas ICE facility shooting continues as federal authorities work to establish a clear motive and timeline of events.
All right, there you have it. Direct interview with the brother, giving details on what type of person this individual was. He really wasn't interested in politics, and he was registered as an independent, not a Democrat or Republican. What I thought would be interesting was to take a look at the demographic of the area in which he lived. He lived in Fairview, Texas. He also lived in Durant, Oklahoma. And I was just interested to see what was the political demographics of those two areas. So let's go on Google right now and pull that up. I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at the political demographic of Fairview, Texas, where this gentleman, Joshua Jahn, lived at. Now, it says here that Fairview, Texas is located in Collins County, and it's conservative. You see here, strongly Republican. Even though they're saying there's some demographic changes in Collins County where they see it's starting to grow. Other people are starting to move in that area. You see gradually increasing Democratic support in that area. When you look at Fairview, it is still strongly Republican leaning and has voted Republican leaning for decades. Okay? So this is a Republican area. Let's look at Durant, Oklahoma, where he said he had another home at. Here is what is the political demographic in Durant, Oklahoma. And you can see strongly Republican and conservative. Strongly Republican and conservative. In the 2020 election, Donald Trump carried the region with one of the highest percentages for Republican candidates, winning 76% of the vote. So Durant is mostly not just Republican, they're MAGA. Now that I found interesting, and you want to know why? I don't care what the right say when a lot of these shooters are apprehended or they kill themselves, to try to paint that picture that it's the left or they've been brainwashed or indoctrinated or whatever by the left, that they are always baptized in Republican or MAGA ideologies and guns. What really gets me is what they're saying now, that there's far more violence on the left. And I've had debates with MAGA followers, and this is what comes out of their mouths. There's far more violence on the left than there is on the right, which is a humongous lie. So what I thought I would do is do some research involved in that sort of argument, that the violence is all on the left and none on the right. And I found a pretty good article in which I was able to get information which led me to a institution that does this type of research and produces this type of information. And it was pretty interesting. Let's take a look at it. Let me go to Google and pull that up as well right now. We have been hearing a lot lately from the right that the amount of violence, politically motivated violence, is done more by the left than the right. Now, what I did is went and chose this article. This was an article done that truly says here, right-wing terrorist attacks plunge in 2025. And it's not counting the last couple of weeks, because the last couple of weeks we had like probably 7 shootings from young white males. I don't know if they were politically motivated. Some of them were school shootings and stuff like that. But we've had some violence from like at least 7 white males. The right would like to tell you that a lot of these individuals are from the left, but what do we see? When we check their background, we always find out whether these guys have a political view or not. They're always dipped in Republicans and guns. Okay? Now, but I chose this article because it talks about left-wing attacks are ticking up. But let's take a look. I'm not going to read all this, but let's take a look at the graph that they have here. Now, these graphs, this graph is from 1996 to 2000, 2000 to 2005, 2005 to 2010, 15, 20 to 25. Now you have left wing here, which is in green, right wing, which is in the yellow. Now when you touch on the right wing color, you get to see the amount of numbers of attacks that took place during that period. Okay, we'll go through all these, as you can see. And if you touch the green, you see the numbers are far less. And I believe this is what he's talking about, this uptick from 1 to 7. When you look at the right, you see the numbers are far higher, man. You just see it. And I believe this is what he means by this uptick. Where my arrow? Here it is. Yep, it shows it kind of dropping. You still at its drop, it's 14 in 2024. And in 2025, they have it climbing to 5. I'm going to have to look and research what 5 is, probably in this article, but I'm going to do my research. See what 5 politically motivated attacks were done by the left. Okay, let's scroll down some more because they have another graph here. But you, on your own, can read this article. I'll show you all the information. You can go into it in details. Here it is again. Left and right wing terrorist attacks and plots each doubled or nearly doubled in the last decade. So they're saying they're both doubled. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers here. Now, when you touch the left, it'll show the numbers. And let's read the dates. We talk in 1996 on the first graph. 1996 between 2005, 2006 to 2015, 2016, and 2025. Okay, let's touch the left. It shows the numbers immediately. Okay, between 1996 and 2005, 8 motivated, politically violent, what they call terrorist attacks by the left. Let's click on the right. Same time frame, 1996 to 2005. 136 motivated terrorist, politically motivated terrorist violent attacks. Okay, now let's go to 2006 to 2015. You touch the left, you see 17 motivated terrorist, politically motivated terrorist attacks between that time frame. Now let's go to the right. 103. Wow. 2006, 2015. Now let's do the last column here, which is 2016 to 2025. Let's touch on the left here. It shows 41 politically motivated terrorist plots or attacks that took place motivated by the left. Then when you touch on the right, wow, you have a whopping 205 between 2016 and 2025. Now, let me remind you, this is an article that's talking about left-wing violence being on the rise, but it still shows right-wing violence is far ahead of left-wing violence. Let's look at the numbers again. Let's look at the numbers again. Let's look at the numbers again. Let's look at them. Look at the difference in numbers. Now, these two graphs were put together by the Center of Strategic and International Studies, Warfare, Irregular Threats, and Terrorist Program. Now, when I clicked on those and brought those up, which brought up this page here, and you can see it, Center for Strategic and International Studies, it shows the rising ticks of left-wing violence rising. So this is the article that I picked. An article that is focused on the uptick of left-wing politically motivated violence. Okay? But when you go down and you look at the overall graph, when it includes right-wing, left-wing, jihadists, and this is etho-nationalist, you touch on the red here, and it clearly shows the numbers are still higher. Okay, you touch on the left wing. It shows the numbers much lower. Then you look at the jihadists. The jihadist numbers are pretty high too, but they're not including 9/11. If they include 9/11, the jihadist numbers would be much higher. You go to the I believe you pronounce this ethno. Oh, that's what that ethno-nationalists. Jesus Christ, the numbers are extremely low. Others, very low. The highest is still the right. So even in an article that I found where they're saying that left-wing violence is, this is what the right is saying, that left-wing violence is way more higher than the right. They're lying. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been collecting a lot of this information. I'm going to save it on my desktop. That's because the Trump administration is starting to scrub it from their websites. They have this same information in their sites, the FBI site, the DOJ site. It's in the newspapers, been reported in the news. They're starting to scrub all this information from their site because it embarrasses them when they try to say that the violence is way more higher on the left than the right. As you can see, that's a lie. So I just wanted to let you know that, because we have a lot of right-wing podcasters who are putting that bullcrap information out there. And if you want to combat it, go to these proper agencies and articles which do these studies and pull this information for yourself and just show them they're lying. There's no studies that they could get except from what's going to be put up on Kash Patel's FBI site, which will probably be false, or the DOJ, which is just a Trump butt kisser site. So, it's probably going to be false information. But as you can see, and this is an article which is clearly studying the uptick of violence done by, politically motivated violence done by the left. And it still shows the right far ahead of the left when it comes to politically motivated violence in this country. Just wanted to show you that there. And you can read these articles for yourself if you want to go to them. All the authors are here. Let's go back to this one so you can see it. Who are the authors? Let's see here. This one is political news. This one is by, here's the author here, DeRay Gregorian. So you can look up these articles yourself and read this. There we have it. Now, as you can see from that article, that the violence is much higher on the right than it is on the left. And the violence of from the right has been for decades higher than the left. I mean, you could go all the way back to the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. The violence on the right was always higher than violence on the left. That's always been the case. So when you hear individuals tell you this, you know it's bullcrap. But we got our president, we got our vice president, we've got an administration that is trying to paint this picture about people that's on the left. And let me add this too, that there's two different types of Republicans. You have MAGA Republicans and you have staunch Republicans, which are Republicans from the old Republican Party. And those Republicans can't stand MAGA. They absolutely loathe MAGA. They cannot stand MAGA. Will not never vote for Trump. So you have these two groups. It is not just MAGA and Republican and you can mash them together and it all means one thing. No. MAGA and Republican, two different groups. And staunch Republicans don't want nothing to do with MAGA. So when we look, as we hope to not see this political violence anymore or escalate, as we look at these cases, you got to understand that it ain't about somebody on the left did it. Because there's some Republicans out here that cannot stand MAGA. Look at the first assassination attempt on President Trump's life. Republican. His family was Trump supporters. Okay? Thomas Matthew Crooks. And he tried to kill the president. Look at the one that was just convicted, Ryan Roof. Ryan Roof was not no liberal. He wasn't from the left. He was a Republican, voted for Trump, couldn't stand what he seen Trump do, and then I believe he became a libertarian after that. But he was never a liberal. So we got this rift between these individuals who call themselves Republicans under that Republican roof who do not agree with each other at all. And it shows in politics, in Washington, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. They are not MAGA, can't stand MAGA. So I just wanted to add that. Now I was going to give the names of the 3 content creators that we just looked at, but you know what? I changed my mind. The white guy was just straight MAGA. He was just straight lying. He don't care what comes out of his mouth as long as it makes the left look bad. The 2 black gentlemen, they're straight grifters. They claim to be conservative, but they're not. They make their money because white people pay them by supporting their podcast, funding them, because they can say things that white people can't, especially MAGA, without being racist or called racist. That's why they exist. They don't have a sincere bone in their body of being conservative. They just want that money. And whites will pay them, while not giving 2 shits about them, because MAGA at its core is white supremacists all day long. Now, black communities will call these and label these 2 guys with certain names and terminologies. I'm not going to go into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do one thing better. I'm going to let you hear from a Republican. Okay? MAGA. A MAGA supporter. A right-wing white supremacist. That's a right-wing white supremacist by the name of Nick Fuentes. I'm going to let Nick tell y'all, and I'm going to end this video on that. You guys, after you listen to Nick set these guys straight, you have a blessed day. And peace, love, and prosperity to all of y'all. Until I see y'all on the next video. Let's listen to Nick. Give these guys what for.
In a way, I'm done with all the Uncle Toms. I'm done with Jason Whitlock. I'm done with Candace Owens. I'm done with all the Uncle Tom token blacks. Like, you're not that smart. You're not even that conservative. You built your career on a grift that is now dead. You were hired when diversity quotas were a thing. You were hired when white guilt is a thing. I don't feel white guilt. I never have. DEI is over. So now you're done. You need to be fired. Like, you're done.